I liked my wife's photo on Instagram and it ended our marriage. Chapter 1. Who could have imagined that a simple Instagram like would blow up my entire life? The photo showed my wife Rachel in an expensive trench coat, standing in the middle of a vineyard in Napa Valley. She wasn't there for wine tasting, she was actually picking grapes, basket in hand, playing the part of a hardworking farm girl. This was the same woman who refused to even step foot in our kitchen at home. Her caption read, "A real woman can conquer the boardroom and embrace the simple life, best of both worlds." Just yesterday morning, she'd told me she was flying to Seattle for an important tech conference. Turns out, this conference was a weekend trip to her coworker Dylan's family vineyard in wine country. I stared at her glowing face in the photo, feeling hollow inside. After hitting like, I put my phone away, but the office gossip was already in full swing around me. I didn't know what storm was coming, but one thing was crystal clear. My marriage to Rachel was over. Ethan, what the hell was that like supposed to mean? Trying to embarrass me? Rachel's call came within minutes, her voice strained with barely concealed panic. Dylan's family isn't wealthy like us. I'm just helping out at their vineyard. What's wrong with that? You grew up with a silver spoon, you wouldn't understand what it's like to actually work for something. Delete that like now, before our coworkers see it and start gossiping. You might not care about your reputation, but I do. She paused, probably realizing how harsh she sounded, then added softly. Next holiday, I promise I'll go with you to visit your sister. Another next time. These empty promises had become her specialty. I was done believing them. Especially since our divorce cooling-off period would end right after Memorial Day. There would be no next holiday for us. I was about to refuse when I heard her gasp on the other end. Sounded like she'd tripped on something. She hung up abruptly. I frowned, putting my phone down and trying to focus on the marketing proposal in front of me. But soon my phone was blowing up like a fire alarm. Dylan had tagged me in our work Slack, complete with a screenshot of my Instagram activity. Ethan, what's your like supposed to mean? If you think I'm beneath you because I'm from farm country, just say it. No need for passive-aggressive BS. He continued his performance in the channel. Rachel was kind enough to help my family with harvest season, while you sit behind your phone screen judging us. Real classy, man. The message lit a fuse. The Slack channel exploded. Coworkers piled on, eager to score points with Dylan. After all, he was the CEO's new golden boy. Even worse, Rachel herself jumped in. Ethan, apologize to Dylan immediately or you're suspended for a month without pay. Her favoritism was breathtaking, hitting me like a punch to the gut. What killed me most was that colleagues I'd considered friends stayed silent. Not one person defended me. They circled like sharks, accusing me of discrimination, of being a small-minded elite who couldn't handle real people. I took a deep breath, swallowing my anger. I wasn't interested in defending myself. If Rachel wanted to fire me over this, she'd be doing me a favor. After all, 2 months ago, she'd already signed the divorce papers. Chapter 2. It was an ordinary Thursday when I'd placed the divorce papers in front of Rachel. I still held on to a sliver of hope that she'd actually read them, maybe even ask why we'd reached this point. But she barely glanced at the documents, her eyes glued to her phone screen as she scrawled her signature like she was signing off on a routine report. I stood there, staring at her careless handwriting, feeling like I'd been doused in ice water. You're just signing? Just like that? Dylan vetted these documents. If he says they're fine, they're fine. Now get out, I'm busy. She frowned slightly, her impatience obvious, fingers never stopping their dance across her phone screen. I gripped the papers until my knuckles went white, chest tight with something I couldn't name. In her eyes, I didn't even deserve a moment of consideration. The only person she trusted was Dylan. I looked down and saw her frown melting into a soft smile, the kind of gentle expression I hadn't seen directed at me in months. Glancing at her phone screen, I saw she was texting Dylan flirty messages about dinner at an exclusive restaurant that night. We were in the same office, yet she was making romantic plans with another man. The shrill ring of my phone pulled me back to the present. Rachel again, probably demanding I grovel to Dylan in the Slack channel. I didn't want to answer, but she called 15 times straight until a coworker handed me the phone with a worried look. Rachel's looking for you. Sounds urgent. Everything's urgent with her, I muttered, but took the call. Ethan, you've got some balls ignoring my calls. Think you're too good for me now? Her voice hit me like verbal machine gun fire. What do you want, Rachel? She scoffed. Someone from the courthouse called about divorce mediation. Did you hire someone to prank call me? Pretending to be a court official? That's a new low, even for you. I almost laughed at the irony. She'd finally remembered those divorce papers? Chapter 3. But her next words came like a thunderstorm. Ethan, I thought you had some integrity, but hiring fake court officials to threaten me with divorce. You've really opened my eyes to what kind of person you are. Her accusation left me speechless. Then I heard Dylan's lazy drawl in the background. Come on, Rachel. He's probably just jealous that you're here helping my family instead of being with him. Rachel's voice turned even colder. Jealous? If he really cared, he wouldn't have called 911 at 3 a.m. when I was exhausted from a conference, making a scene. My jaw clenched at the memory. That night, she'd come home reeking of another man's cologne after an industry networking event with Dylan. I'd been struggling to breathe through a severe allergic reaction. Her making a scene was me desperately calling for an ambulance. When the paramedics knocked, she'd stormed out in her silk robe and screamed at them for disturbing her sleep, then locked the door behind them. The next day, finding me too sick to stand, she'd complained I was ruining her work productivity and moved into Dylan's downtown loft to focus better. I spent 5 days alone, surviving on whatever medication I could find, developing a chronic sinus condition that flared up whenever the temperature dropped. But none of that mattered to her. She only remembered how I'd disrupted her peace. Rachel, are you seriously suspending me for a month over this? Firing you, or you can resign. Your choice. I answered without hesitation. I'll resign. She seemed caught off guard by my directness, then softened her tone slightly. Actually, firing might be excessive. Dylan's being generous won't hold your mockery against him, but going forward, all your project bonuses go to him as compensation for emotional distress. You should thank him for his understanding. Chapter 4. Their tag team manipulation made me laugh out loud. They'd orchestrated this whole drama, yet somehow I was the villain. Rachel had always been a master at rewriting reality. Like when Dylan missed a crucial client meeting because he got the time wrong, but somehow it became my fault for not reminding him properly. Or when he got drunk at a client dinner and broke their iPad, nearly causing us to lose the account. Rachel didn't blame him instead, she publicly berated me for failing to train him properly. I was done playing these games. Thanks for the offer, but I choose to resign. Better for everyone. I hung up before she could respond. Coworkers stared with barely concealed excitement. I met their gazes until they pretended to be busy. An unknown number called. Hello, this is the county courthouse. I'm calling to confirm do you and Mrs. Morrison still need divorce mediation? No mediation needed. Understood. Please come to the courthouse next week during business hours to collect your divorce decree. I exhaled slowly. This 5-year marriage was finally ending. After wrapping up my projects, I typed my resignation letter and handed it to our department head, Jessica. With Rachel out of the office, Jessica would have to process it. I couldn't spend another minute in this tech park. Passing Jessica's desk, I noticed a small golden lotus figurine, covered in dust. It was from 5 years ago, when Rachel and I first got together. She'd given one to each team member as an engagement gift, spending days selecting them. She'd said the lotus represented our love pure and eternal. I still remembered her holding my hand, smiling softly, Ethan, our love will be like this lotus, it will never fade. Now the lotus sat forgotten in a corner, just like our marriage replaced by time and new interests. Jessica caught my stare and sneered, move along. That's not yours to look at anymore. Your paperwork's done. Get out. I smiled bitterly and left without a word. At my desk, I found it covered in trash coffee cups, food wrappers, papers scattered everywhere. My personal items had been dumped on the floor. My colleagues watched with smirking anticipation. They probably figured since I'd burned bridges with Rachel, there was no need to pretend anymore. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction. I swept everything into the trash, grabbed my things, and walked out. Leaving the tech park, I called a realtor to list our loft, then went to get my passport renewed. 5 years ago, I'd given up my dream of traveling the world to stay in San Francisco for Rachel. Now, with divorce imminent, I could finally reclaim my future. Chapter 5. 5 years ago, I'd told Rachel I wanted to take her hand and explore every corner of the world. But she never made time for a real trip, always claiming work was too demanding. I understood her dedication and happily stayed at her company, spending 5 years as her reliable right hand. Everything changed when Dylan joined. Rachel dumped all the company responsibilities on me while she played tour guide for him. I initially thought she was mentoring him on projects until Dylan started posting their photos on social media. Intimate selfies at Yosemite, wine tasting in Sonoma, captions dripping with innuendo. My understanding had just enabled her betrayal. Now Dylan, emboldened by Rachel's favoritism, was flaunting everything on Instagram. Rachel, who never cooked, had made an elaborate spread for Dylan's family. She'd served tea to his relatives like a dutiful daughter-in-law, even sharing a ceremonial cup with Dylan while his family cheered. This time I just liked the posts. No comments. Then I blocked both their accounts. I spent a few days exploring coastal towns around the Bay Area, planning to start my world tour once the divorce was final. The day I got the decree, I felt nothing but relief, even smiled a little. But when I returned to the loft to pack, I heard voices inside. Rachel, Dylan may be from farm country, but he's much more reliable than Ethan. Sure, he drinks a bit, but that'll change once you have kids. Mom? What are you talking about? Ethan and I are married. Rachel's voice held smugness barely masked as concern. I laughed coldly. I didn't drink, had no vices, but in Rachel's mother's eyes, I wasn't man enough. So what if you're married? You can always divorce. Dylan's grounded, not like Ethan who just lives off you. Rachel's mother's voice dripped contempt. Apparently, they'd already accepted Dylan as the future son-in-law, forgetting how 5 years ago they'd pursued me, thinking I could boost Rachel's career. I didn't want to hear more. I pushed open the door. Chapter 6. All three faces changed when they saw me. Rachel recovered first, pointing at me aggressively. Ethan. Finally decided to come home? Gone for days without a word. Are you trying to end this marriage? Keep pushing me and I'll lock you out. See if you can even get in the door. I paused, looking at her self-righteous face. She clearly hadn't realized we were already divorced. In the past, whenever I did something that displeased her, she'd lock me out regardless of whether. Once, just because I'd made Dylan's tea too weak, she threw me out with a cold face. Then spent the entire night alone with Dylan in our home, their laughter drifting through the door like knives. Now Dylan emerged from our bedroom in loungewear, rubbing his eyes like he'd just woken up. He glanced at me with irritation. What's the noise about? Just kick him out. Does he dare complain? Rachel hesitated slightly. Her mother immediately backed him up. Exactly. A useless man clinging to this place, how shameless. With their encouragement, Rachel's eyes filled with disgust. She waved dismissively, like shooing away a stray dog. Leave. I need space. Dylan will be staying here to keep me company. Keep pushing, and when I really decide to divorce you, you'll regret it. I looked at this little family unit and laughed coldly. No need to wait. Under their shocked stares, I pulled out 2 green divorce certificates from my bag and placed them on the table. As you wished. We're already divorced. The 3 of them froze, staring at the documents in stunned silence. Dylan examined them suspiciously. A loser like you would give up your meal ticket? These must be fake. Rachel's expression softened slightly as she glared at me. Ethan, still playing these childish games? Using fake documents? Should I call the police? She reached for her phone, waiting for me to beg. But I remained calm, even smiled slightly. You forgot about the divorce papers you signed. How pathetic. Rachel's face went white as she finally remembered the documents I'd given her 2 months ago. Chapter 7. No. I never meant to really leave you. Surprisingly, she didn't look relieved as I'd expected. Instead, she seemed panicked, staring at the papers in disbelief, mumbling to herself. Dylan, realizing we'd actually signed divorce papers, flashed a triumphant smile while pretending concern. At least you know your place, getting away from Rachel. Good for both of you. But Rachel didn't read those papers carefully. Who knows what tricks you pulled with the finances? I suddenly understood. Rachel wasn't upset about the divorce itself. She was worried I'd taken her money. In her world, money always mattered more than me. Realizing this, I lost interest in arguing and started packing. Dylan stepped forward, blocking my path. What, feeling guilty? Running away? Better sign something giving up all claims to assets, pay Rachel back for all these years of supporting you. I glanced at the silent Rachel and caught something complex in her eyes: hesitation, maybe disappointment. She probably thought I was exactly the type to play dirty. Yet she was the one who'd betrayed our marriage, and now she wanted me to leave with nothing. I laughed coldly, not bothering to respond. Rachel's mother grabbed the divorce certificate and threw it at me. Dylan's right. Either give up everything or we'll sue you for fraud. Enough. Rachel suddenly shouted, cutting them off. The 3 were startled into silence. Her mother said awkwardly. Rachel, we're just looking out for you. What if he took advantage? Ethan's not like that. Rachel interrupted firmly, her conviction surprising even me. But when she turned to me, her eyes filled with sadness. Ethan, I don't care about the money. Just tell me why you had to divorce me. Even if I went to help Dylan at the vineyard instead of visiting your sister, it shouldn't have come to this. I won't hold the secret divorce papers against you. We can go to the courthouse right now and remarry. Whatever you want, I'll give you. Chapter 8. Rachel's voice turned gentle, like it used to be 5 years ago. After each boundary crossing with Dylan, she'd use sweet words to placate me. I remembered once, furious, I'd dragged her to the courthouse to file for divorce. But she'd turned soft, holding my hand, promising to change. I'd been fool enough to believe her, giving up on divorce. She knew I couldn't let go of our 5 years together, using my attachment to push boundaries again and again. Not this time. I wouldn't look back. Seeing my silence, Rachel thought I was wavering. Her cheeks flushed as she stepped closer, voice dropping to a whisper. Ethan, don't be angry. I'll stay home this week, spend time with you. I laughed coldly, stepping back. No need. You should focus on planning your future with Dylan. Isn't that what you wanted? I'm giving you what you want. Rachel's eyes widened, lips trembling speechlessly. Dylan's eyes gleamed with victory, but sensing Rachel's hesitation, he quickly intervened. Ethan, Rachel and I are just colleagues. What future? Let's sit down and talk this through properly. He reached for my arm, playing peacemaker. I frowned, pulling away. But Dylan grabbed my wrist and suddenly threw himself backward, hitting his head on the coffee table with a dull thud. Chapter 9. Dylan. Are you okay? Rachel cried out, rushing to check on him. Dylan held his forehead, putting on a pained expression. I'm fine, Rachel. Don't blame Ethan, probably didn't mean it. Rachel whipped around, glaring at me furiously. Ethan, what's wrong with you? You know Dylan has health issues and you pushed him. Is it because you look down on his farm background? You can't even stand him touching you? Rachel's mother helped Dylan to the couch, asking worriedly. Dylan, how bad is it? Should we go to the hospital? Rachel sighed, explaining Dylan's past to her mother, eyes full of sympathy. She said Dylan's parents died when he was young, leaving him to be raised by his aunt. His aunt was sickly, so Dylan had to manage the vineyard alone. Once, while working in the vineyard, a ladder fell and broke his ribs, nearly killing him. A neighbor saved his life by rushing him to the hospital. But the injury left him with chronic pain that flared up in cold weather. Despite this, he continued caring for his aunt. By the end of the story, both women had tears in their eyes. Rachel's mother held Dylan's hand, moved. Such a good boy. If Ethan had half your character, we'd have no worries. Taking care of my aunt and being good to Rachel is just what I should do. Dylan spoke humbly, like a saint. Watching their performance made me nauseous. When Dylan first joined the company, I'd checked his background. The truth was far different. He lived with his aunt, yes, but she and the neighbors did all the vineyard work. He'd been spoiled rotten, never touching a single grape basket. As for the ladder accident? He'd faked it to avoid work and gain sympathy. I'd told Rachel all this, but she didn't believe me, accusing me of slandering Dylan. I'd even shown her my calloused hands, the scars from helping my grandfather with farm work as a kid, proving I knew real labor. Dylan's soft, manicured hands had never done a day's hard work. But Rachel had just sneered. Stop pretending. A city boy like you doing farm work? You hurt your hands just to discredit Dylan. How manipulative. I was born in San Francisco, but spent summers helping my grandparents on their farm. These experiences meant nothing to Rachel. She only had eyes for Dylan. Chapter 10. Dylan, can you walk? Let's get you to the hospital, make sure nothing's serious. Rachel carefully supported Dylan while her mother helped from the other side. Throughout it all, they never looked at me again, as if I was still the villain. Fine by me. Less drama. I grabbed my bags and headed straight to the airport for my first destination, a small coastal town. Just as the flight attendant reminded us to turn off phones, I got a text from Rachel. Dylan's fine. Come home and we'll talk properly. I deleted it and powered off. I just wanted a good night's sleep and a fresh start. But the next day, Rachel tracked me down to my hotel. I thought it was housekeeping when she knocked. She stood there in a crisp business suit, wearing her fake pleasant smile. Seeing me, her smile widened as she walked right in. Ethan, running off to hotels now? Good thing I put a tracker on your phone, or I'd never find you. Planning a surprise for me? We're not newlyweds anymore. Just tell me what you want. Her words stunned me. We hadn't celebrated an anniversary in years, hadn't even spent birthdays together. Every holiday, I'd see Dylan's social media full of gifts, designer bags, watches, all handpicked by Rachel, delivered right on time. I hadn't received even a basic happy birthday text in 3 years. Besides, today wasn't even our anniversary. You've got the date wrong. Today isn't our anniversary. I said flatly, like discussing strangers. Rachel's smile froze, then she recovered, pulling out an elegant gift box. Whatever, I have a gift for you. I looked at the carefully wrapped box with zero interest. No thanks. Take it back. She ignored me, opening it herself. You don't even have a decent coat. How is that acceptable? Try this cashmere coat, see if it fits. She pulled out a cashmere coat, shaking it out in front of me. My face darkened as I covered my nose, waving her away. You know I'm allergic to cashmere. She froze, quickly putting it away, laughing awkwardly. Sorry, I forgot. Chapter 11. She always remembered every detail of Dylan's preferences but couldn't recall that I was severely allergic to cashmere. In the past, she'd constantly brought home cashmere scarves and throws, telling me to build tolerance when I reminded her of my allergy. I'd had a reaction so severe I nearly stopped breathing. Later I discovered those items were meant for Dylan, rejected them as too old-fashioned, so she pawned them off on me. Rachel approached carefully, trying to take my arm. I dodged coldly. Say what you came to say. Don't touch me. She froze, not expecting such coldness. Looking down, her voice turned plaintive. Ethan, stop being angry. Come home. I genuinely want to apologize. The thing with Dylan, I was just being a supportive boss. Nothing more. I never wanted a divorce. I know you can't just throw away 5 years either. But you could watch me while you flirted with Dylan? I asked, watching her innocent act. She looked up in shock. How can you say that? Dylan and I are just close colleagues. He comes from a poor background. I didn't want him feeling excluded, so I helped at the vineyard to make him feel part of the team, help his confidence. I snorted. So integrated that she was already planning their future together over ceremonial tea. Then buy him more vineyard land. Let him do what he's good at. That'll boost his confidence. I said sarcastically. How can you suggest that? He worked hard to get to San Francisco. I can't send him away just because you don't like him. Rachel rejected the idea without hesitation. I knew she would. I shrugged. Then we have nothing to discuss. Leave. Her face darkened as she slammed the table. Ethan, I thought your education would make you more understanding. But you're so petty you can't even tolerate a colleague. I was blind to marry you. I looked at her and nodded with a smile. I was blind too. Took me 5 years to see who you really are. Rachel stomped her foot. Too guilty to argue back, and threw out. Remember what you said today. You'll regret it. Chapter 12. Days later, I understood what she meant by you'll regret it. Knowing I'd blocked her and Dylan's accounts, Rachel had colleagues send me their latest photos. These were even more intimate than before. One showed them in matching silk robes, lounging on wicker chairs at the vineyard. Rachel had posted these publicly, announcing her relationship with Dylan to the world. The colleague who sent them added with fake sympathy. Your own wife running off with another man, that's rough, buddy. Looking at the photos, I felt nothing. Just seemed like a waste of time when I could be watching the morning mist over the coastal cliffs. I didn't reply, put my phone away, and continued my journey. In 2 months, I visited over a dozen towns. Each place's unique character was like a gentle breeze, slowly healing the cracks in my heart. I remembered how Rachel used to say only unmotivated people wandered around, telling me to grow up and stop acting like a child. Yet she was happy to go to amusement parks with Dylan, riding carousels, saying he helped her rediscover her youth. Looking back, it was simple. She didn't love me anymore, so everything I did was wrong. I picked my next destination on the map, not far from my sister's town, and decided to visit her. But when I opened her door, I saw the last person I wanted to see. What was Rachel doing here? Chapter 14. I later learned why Rachel had tracked me down to my sister's town. She'd accompanied Dylan back to his family vineyard again, but this time, the locals weren't welcoming. In front of Rachel, they ransacked Dylan's backpack, stealing his designer wallet and watch. When Rachel tried to intervene, Dylan's cousin shoved her to the ground, calling her a meddling bitch. Too frightened to speak up, she watched helplessly as they humiliated Dylan. Panicking, Rachel tried to leave that night but got lost on the rural roads. Dylan's cousin caught her, gave her a brutal lesson, and locked her in a shed for 2 days. While she was trapped, Dylan showed his true colors. He used compromising photos from the vineyard to blackmail her into transferring company shares to his name. By the time villagers finally took her to the hospital, she was nearly unconscious. The traumatized Rachel had no choice but to come find me immediately after discharge. She wanted my forgiveness, wanted me back, hoping I could help her deal with Dylan. But she'd forgotten I was no longer the Ethan who would move mountains for her. I looked at her bruised face, shook my head gently, and quietly closed the door. Our story was over. After she left town, I continued my travels. I went to southern islands, watching sunrise over the ocean breeze. I hiked northern mountains, listening to wind through snow-covered pines. With each place, my heart grew calmer. Memories of Rachel and Dylan faded like footprints washed away by waves. 3 months later, I received an email from an old colleague with attached photos. The pictures showed Rachel and Dylan outside a rundown rural clinic. Rachel looked haggard, clothes wrinkled beyond recognition. Dylan wore a triumphant smile, clutching what looked like legal documents. The colleague wrote, Ethan, you got out at the right time. Rachel's completely under Dylan's thumb now. He basically owns the company. I smiled, closed the email, and continued planning my next destination. Chapter 15. Rachel's fate didn't surprise me. She'd chosen Dylan for his innocent, pitiful act. But she forgot fake innocence always reveals its true face. 6 months later, I got a call at a seaside cafe from an unknown number. The caller identified himself as Rachel's lawyer, his voice grave. Mr. Morrison, Ms. Winters is in serious trouble and needs your help. I frowned. What kind of trouble? The lawyer sighed. Things with Dylan got out of hand. He used documents she signed to embezzle most of the company's funds. Ms. Winters is drowning in debt with creditors hunting her down. She needs you to testify that she signed under duress. I laughed coldly. Her mess, her problem. Why? Should I help? The lawyer paused, then pleaded. Ms. Winters says you're the only person she trusts. She knows she wronged you but hopes you'll help for the sake of your 5 years together. I was quiet for a moment, memories flickering through my mind. The old Rachel would make me tea late at night, promising to stay with me forever. But that Rachel had been ground away by reality and Dylan. Tell her I can't help. I hung up, picked up my coffee, and gazed at the horizon. Sunlight danced on the waves, whispering of new beginnings. Months later, I heard updates about Rachel through the travel grapevine. Dylan had vanished abroad with the money, leaving Rachel to face creditors and lawsuits alone. After the company went bankrupt, she sold everything, houses, cars, but still couldn't cover the debts. Eventually, she returned to work at a rural vineyard, doing the actual labor she'd once pretended at. People said she often stared into space, muttering my name. I felt nothing when I heard this. She'd made her bed. As for Dylan, some said he'd fled overseas with the money, others claimed creditors had found him and his situation was worse than Rachel's. I had no interest in confirming either story. Their drama was no longer my concern. Chapter 16. In my 3rd year of traveling, I settled in a small mountain town and opened a bookshop. It wasn't large, but travelers came daily to borrow books, buy stories, and sometimes children gathered to hear me read. I loved this life, peaceful and fulfilling. One evening at sunset, a familiar figure appeared in the doorway. Rachel. She was skeleton thin, hair prematurely gray, wearing a faded shirt that had seen better days. She looked like she'd aged 20 years. She stood at the threshold, hesitating before speaking softly. Ethan, I just wanted to see you. I set down my book and looked at her calmly. You've seen me. Now what? She froze. Eyes gradually filling with tears. Ethan, I know I was wrong. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know. I never stopped thinking about you. I smiled slightly, my voice steady. But I stopped thinking about you. She opened her mouth to speak but ultimately stayed silent. Head down, she turned away, her silhouette heartbreakingly lonely in the fading light. I watched her leave, feeling nothing. 5 years ago, I thought she was my whole world. 5 years later, I understood my real world was the mountains and seas I'd traveled, the self I'd rediscovered. I closed the bookshop door and looked up at the sunset painting the sky. Tomorrow I had plans to hike into the mountains, collecting new stories for the children. As for Rachel, she was just another passing stranger in my life's journey. The end.